So, Star Trek has many ship classes, and I like most of them, the horror that is the Springfield class notwithstanding. And I tend towards liking the more obscure or common but pedestrian Trek designs. For instance, the Miranda, the red shirt of Starfleet alongside the Oberth, is among my favorite starship designs of all time. So any list of my top favorite Trek ships would be full of those designs, either incredibly average or rather obscure. But what about my favorite hero ships? I hear no one asking. If I were in charge of making a Star Trek series and could set it in any time aboard any ship, which one would I pick? Note before we begin that my definition of hero ship is a vessel that a serious sci-fi show would take place on. A show that wanted a serious and cool ship, not a joke ship like Cerritos is often shown as. So with that poor and confusing explanation out of the way, let's get into my list. Easily my favorite iteration of the Enterprise is the refitted version we see first in the motion picture. While the ship's original configuration is a close second, the refit just seems much more grounded in reality, with her visible hull plating, mute gray colors, and other markings. Some of the earliest sci-fi I wrote was actually set aboard a refit Constitution-class starship, the USS Hornet. While Star Trek Voyager had its flaws, lazy writing, a steadfast commitment to episodic storytelling, and a refusal to stray far from the basic Trek plot in later stories, the Voyager itself is a phenomenal design of ship in her own right, and is easily able to hold her own in a beauty contest with the Enterprise D and Enterprise E, while also being far more spacious and roomy than the Defiant for her crew. The Intrepid class was built to serve as a very fast and capable mid-sized cruiser for combat or scientific missions as the situation required. The vessels were not made for long-range missions, but had sufficient crew quarters and amenities for voyages of a few years or two. Really a year or two. So if you want a story about a plucky crew darting around the edge of the Federation, then here you go. The only non-Starfleet ship on my list, the Vorcha class, is the first truly modern cruiser to enter service with the Klingon military since the late 23rd century. The vessel being a very capable design and until the arrival of the Negvar, the most powerful ship in the Klingon fleet. Now the rest of the Klingon fleet is rather small, the birds of prey, too old, the Katinga, and big bird of prey cruisers like the Kvort, or too prestigious, like the Negvar, for a show or book to be set on. But I think a series focusing on a Klingon ship and crew on a mission of exploration out on the frontier could be interesting and a nice change from the usual Trek format. I kind of imagine the equivalent of Klingon red shirts hearing a noise and then phasering the bushes only to be attacked from behind or something like that. When I first saw the Excelsior class, I have to admit I hated it. Hardly surprising considering the part the ship and her crew played in her first appearance on screen. However, by the time that I started watching The Next Generation, that began to change, and today the Excelsior is among my favorite Trek designs. Although she is a bit older than the average by TNG, the Excelsior is still serviceable enough, and the Obana class, recently revealed in Lower Decks, shows that the basic design is still sound enough for much more service for years to come. I could see a Trek show focused on one of the older Starfleet ships as she patrols the border, running into various smugglers, responding to small colony distress calls. Okay, maybe an Excelsior in the TNG period would not be a good hero ship. I've basically described Lower Decks. But in the era between the Undiscovered Country and Encounter at Farpoint, a show set on an Excelsior would be amazing, and really interesting, I think. And finally, what kind of a list would this be if I didn't include the Galaxy class? Yes, we have had 7 seasons and a movie set aboard the Enterprise D, but somehow I still want more of this ship. The Galaxy is the ultimate hero ship in my opinion, and I will never turn down a chance to see another Galaxy class. So there is my list. I tried to cover more well-known ship designs and not delve into the depths of beta through gamma canon. Let me know what you think of my picks, and also what ships you would like a series set on. As always, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Oh, and also do the liking, subscribing thing that other YouTubers who are way more professional than me are always hounding you to do.